It's now my pleasure to introduce LA Metro CEO Phil Washington to speak about the city's metamorphosis and to really encapsulate all of the issues that we've discussed this morning. So with that, Mr. Washington, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank all of you for being here as well. Let me first just congratulate John Rossard and the CoMotion team for putting this on. I think this is the third year. I was here last year at the conference as well, and it's always forward-thinking, and it's always exciting to see so many people from other parts of the country and the world, actually. So thank you so much for being here. It's great to be a part of this conference, really with something that's focused on the future of mobility. And I see Dick White out here. Is that Dick White? Hey, Dick, how are you? Let me talk just a little bit about what we've been thinking about at LA Metro and what I've been thinking about. I've been dreaming about this idea of creating a new city from the ground up. And this is not something that is rehearsed or anything. This is just something that I've been thinking about. I mean, what would it look like? How would people get around? What would our top priorities actually be? How would we prevent congestion, traffic congestion? What new mobility innovations and technologies would we employ? How would we protect and care for the environment? I mean, how would we do these things? Would there be open space areas? What would we do about people that are on the street and homeless? This idea of creating a new city, what would it look like? And that's kind of what we've been thinking about. Now, we know we cannot create a new city, but we can reimagine sort of what we're doing here in Los Angeles County. In fact, we must reimagine this county and this city. We've got to reimagine what we're doing because the cost of doing nothing to solve our traffic congestion is just too high. And so we know that this is one of the most congested regions in America and actually the world. Traffic congestion is really at a crisis level here in LA County. We have, as you know, 10 million plus people in this county. The last time I looked, just LA County was larger than 42 states. It's pretty incredible. And about 2.5 million more people are coming here to LA County in the next 5 to 10 years. It's pretty incredible. So we've made it our mission at LA Metro to really lead on this issue of not just mobility, but how do we reduce traffic? How do we address this issue of traffic congestion? It's actually in our mission statement. And I was talking to our board not long ago, and I reminded my board that this is actually, one, in our mission statement, and two, this is something we ought to be doing. We ought to be talking about how to reduce congestion on our highways, as well as what we're doing with regard to moving people. It's a mandate. It's actually a mandate from voters here in this region. So we know that solving this traffic issue will not be easy, but we believe we can accomplish this. Now, we spelled this out, this idea of a traffic reduction program. We spelled this out in our strategic vision, our Vision 2028. We spelled out our strategy, our strategic plan for how we're going to improve mobility in LA County. And so based on that plan, we are pursuing a range of initiatives really aimed at pushing the envelope to advance new mobility platforms. We have a regional mobility roadmap. This regional mobility roadmap really helps us manage the wealth of new mobility providers such as ride-hailing, ride-sharing dockless scooters, bike share, even courier network services. The idea that we are looking to build out a county-wide coalition of city, county, and other partners in the region to really look at these range of legislative and regulative strategies to improve mobility in our region. We launched an innovative ride-sharing pilot partnership with VIA, which is a private transportation vehicle network. We have launched last year, or next year, we're going to launch our own micro-transit service. This micro-transit service will use our own employees to operate smaller vehicles, sort of an Uber-like service, if you will, smaller vans on demand, and this will be really, I think, the largest publicly provided on-demand service of its kind in this country. At the same time, we are launching our gender and equity racial equity plan, action plan. The idea behind the equity action plan is that everything that we do in terms of mobility, we look through the lens of equity. Because we know that there's inequitable systems, infrastructure systems out there, so what we want to do is make sure we're looking through the lens of equity. So this traffic reduction program that we're talking about is a very broad program. It includes different tools for reducing and tackling congestion. And let me just talk just about a couple of them. We are in the process of implementing the largest infrastructure program in North America. Many of you know about Measure M. We went to the voters in 2016 and we asked the voters to approve a half-cent sales tax to build infrastructure in this county. The voters approved that Measure M by a 71% margin. We actually were bold enough to ask the voters to not only approve it, but we also said that this sales tax should never end unless the voters decide to end it. So there is no sunset on this measure, this new half-cent sales tax. The first 40 years of the measure, we will generate about $120 billion. And so we are changing the urban landscape here in LA County. We've got dozens of transit and highway projects. We've got 4 major rail lines under construction right now. We're unique in terms of transportation agencies because we are responsible for highway projects as well and funding highway improvements. So we have several highway projects underway. We're working with cities on transit-oriented communities and so much more. But that is not enough. Building this great infrastructure and imagining a new city and county is not enough. We need to change behavior with regard to congestion. And so what we have proposed is putting together a program to mitigate congestion, which includes congestion pricing. And we have said, and we're in the midst of a feasibility study to determine how we will approach this, but what we are saying is that we want to understand through this feasibility study what congestion pricing model works best and where in the county. The feasibility study that we're talking about has already commenced. It's going to take us 15 to 18 months to complete this congestion feasibility study. And at the end of that, we will identify pilot areas in this county to implement congestion pricing. And what also will come out of this study is what model of congestion pricing we should use, whether it's a corridor model, whether it's vehicle miles traveled. At that time, we will identify the pilot area. I joke about this because we, of course, have to convince that pilot area that they have just won the grand prize. And you know what? They will have won the grand prize because traffic will begin to run smoother in that area. There will be less congestion. There will be fewer accidents. We will change behavior initially in that pilot area. But we have gone one step further. We have said that when we first pilot congestion pricing in that area, that we will use the revenues from congestion pricing to make transit free for everybody. And we know that that is a lofty goal, but we believe we can do this. And you know, we have not even scratched the surface in terms of the benefits that free transit can bring. We know that if we have congestion pricing, we know that there's going to be a smoother flow of traffic, and we know all these things, but free transit in the area and taking that burden away from families in terms of the expense of transportation could mean the difference between affordable housing. It could impact homelessness. It puts money back into families' pockets. And so we're being very, very aggressive in our approach. I also joke about this whole idea of congestion pricing, and I always say, if we can pull that off, if we can pull this off in the most congested area in this country, then it can be done anywhere in the world. And so let me end by just saying that we want to see this incredible metamorphosis and this incredible change in the most congested county in America. We are all about looking to reimagine this county. We see congestion pricing as changing behavior of people. We see a smoother flow of traffic through congestion pricing initiatives. And finally, we envision using the revenues from congestion pricing to make transit free for everyone. And we will start in that pilot area. And the beauty of this is, in the pilot area, as we prove the concept, we can make transit free incrementally for seniors first, maybe for students first, and then eventually everyone in the pilot area, and eventually the county as well. So thank you all for having me here. I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you so much.